Welcome back, everybody, to Just the News, No Noise. Our next guest is a former fraudster. Yes, but he is turned writer, podcaster, and consumer protection advocate. Once on the U.S. Secret Service's most wanted list for title theft and mortgage fraud, he served 12 years in prison before rebuilding his life, and he's going to tell us his story. And today, he uses his experience to educate the public on the realities of these crimes and how to protect themselves. So we are delighted to bring in once again to the show Matthew Cox. Matthew, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
All righty. So first of all, let's walk our audience through your past, because they might hear that we have a fraudster on the show and they're thinking to themselves, what on earth? Talk to us about your background.
Well, I owned a mortgage company for a period of time, and I began committing fraud. Eventually, I was indicted and given a 3-year sentence for fraud. But at that time, I started committing even more fraud. Not the smartest thing. And that fraud is what led me to title fraud, where I started doing a myriad of things, one of which was I would rent people's houses and I would satisfy the loans on their houses, and then I would borrow multiple mortgages on their houses, or I would transfer the deeds to people's houses. And there are so many things you could do. You can sell the houses, you can refinance the houses, and that eventually got me placed on the Secret Service's most wanted list. I was on the run for 3 years, and eventually I was caught and sent to federal prison.
Yeah, it's amazing. You were ingenious too. When you look at the crimes, I mean, you really figured this out, and now obviously you use that ingenuity to help protect people. There's a growing trend in this house stealing or this title theft, and that is that it used to be one person with a little ingenuity. Now we're starting to see groups of people working together. We've seen it in Texas, Illinois, maybe the rise of syndicates, and now, of course, AI throws in it. The capability to do this today is is easier than it probably was even when you were doing it, right?
It's way easier. When I was doing it, I used to have to go down to public records and physically go into the building. I had to scour through the records. I had to pull the documents. I didn't do all that in person. I had to open bank accounts. I had to apply for loans in person, go to the closings in person. This was very time consuming. And now with the computer, you could take a $300 laptop and sit in your local coffee shop and go online and do the exact same thing that took me weeks to do in a few hours. And in many states, you can even do the closings online. You don't even have to go in. And AI is only making it easier and easier to do. And even laundering the money is getting easier.
Yeah.
All right, Matt, I got to know, what is the craziest thing you got away with?
Oh gosh, I actually did a seminar a couple days ago, and and they were asking me that exact same thing. I don't know about getting away with. I know that at one point I had borrowed $1.3 million in Columbia, South Carolina, and I got arrested in the bank by the local police department and handcuffed, brought downtown, but they didn't know I was Matthew Cox. And I was actually #1 on the Secret Service's most wanted list at that time. They brought me downtown, let me fill out a police report, and I convinced them not to arrest me. I convinced them that maybe one of the or several of the loan officers at the banks had made some mistakes, and maybe they were committing some kind of fraud, but I certainly wasn't. And I actually argued with the detective and the head of Wachovia's fraud department, and I convinced them to let me go. I then went to 2 more banks, pulled out more money, and left the city.
That is amazing. Talk about ingenious. That is pretty ingenious. All right.
Beat that.
This is the perfect crime of opportunity, because it takes weeks or months, maybe even a year, before someone gets notified that the title changed your hands. You got a bunch of loans and you own this mess. And the guy who did it, or gal who did it, she's long gone. She's hit the thing. Talk about that gap and why that becomes a real challenge for anyone trying to protect their home.
Yeah, there's something called there's multiple things. There's something, it's actually called the gap, where you can close on a loan and the paperwork doesn't get filed for weeks or months. In Fulton County in Atlanta, they're months behind on recordings. The other thing is, as long as, let's say I borrowed a mortgage on your property, or sold the property, or did something with the title on the property, as long as I continue to make those mortgage payments, or the lease payments, or whatever it may be, the homeowner does not realize that he's been the victim of a fraud until the fraudster stops paying, and then the banks get involved, or until, let's say, he shows up and somebody else is living in his house. At that time, he realizes, hey, wait a second, something's wrong here. And that could be months, or like you said, it could be years, as long as they continue to pay. And people don't realize that this is an issue. They don't realize that this is that this is possible. So they're not really looking for it. They're not, they need, what you need is to be notified of any change on your title. That would really help.
Yeah, that's the key.
Matthew, I know some of these conversations can be uncomfortable, but you have a really great redemption arc, and we are so grateful that you've been with us. Matthew Cox,
absolutely.
Thanks for being.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. So viewers, as many of you already know, we have partnered with Home Title Lock to make sure that our audience has the opportunity to find out today if you are already a victim of this silent growing crime. So go to hometitlelock.com, use the promo code JTN25. You're going to get a free title history report from Home Title Lock, and they are also going to give you a free trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's hometitlelock.com, promo code JTN25 for free peace of mind. We're going to take a very quick break, but coming up on the other side, Rab host Steve Gruber is going to join us to discuss writing the new song One Nation for his music project.